You think you need confidence before you act, and that belief silently controls more of your life than you realize. You wait for the moment when your mind feels steady, when your voice feels strong, when your doubts finally disappear. You imagine a future version of yourself who speaks clearly, moves decisively, and no longer hesitates in front of difficult things. And because you believe that version must come first, you delay action in the present. You tell yourself that once you feel more certain, you will begin. Once you trust yourself more, you will move. But if you watch your behavior honestly, something becomes clear. Confidence almost never arrives before action. It usually appears after repetition, after friction, after discomfort, after surviving situations you were not sure you could handle. Yet you keep treating it like a requirement. You make it the gatekeeper of movement. And because of that, you remain outside the very experiences that could build it. Every time you hesitate, you explain it the same way. You say you're not confident enough, but that explanation hides what is really happening. In most cases, the problem is not the absence of confidence, but the presence of uncertainty. You do not know what will happen. You do not know how you will look, how others will react, or whether you will fail in a way that stays with you. And instead of naming that uncertainty directly, you turn it into a flaw in your identity. You call yourself unconfident. That sounds personal, fixed, and deep, which is why it feels true. But what actually stops you is often much simpler. It is the mind trying to avoid exposure, judgment, and unpredictability. You are not waiting for confidence. You are waiting for certainty. And because certainty never fully comes, you keep postponing the things that matter. You prepare, think, rehearse, and imagine, but you do not enter the situation itself. And then you interpret that distance as proof that something is missing in you. But distance always creates the illusion that the problem is internal. The longer you stay away from action, the more powerful the idea becomes that you are not ready for it. And eventually, hesitation starts to feel reasonable, careful, even intelligent. But beneath all of it, the structure stays the same. You are waiting for a feeling that action itself was supposed to build. What feels like self-protection is often only avoidance wearing a calmer face. You think you are being responsible by not stepping forward too early. But in reality, you're letting fear define the order of your life. First confidence, then action. But life rarely works in that order. First exposure, then adaptation. First discomfort, then stability. First action, then proof. You do not become ready by waiting at the edge. You become ready by entering. The thing that scares you and discovering that your mind can survive more than it predicted. Confidence is often nothing more than memory of action that did not destroy you. The deeper problem is that confidence is usually misunderstood. Most people think confidence is a stable emotional state, something solid that exists inside certain people and not inside others. They imagine it as an internal possession, almost like a personality trait that determines who acts and who stays silent. But if you observe people carefully, that idea starts to fall apart. The same person who looks confident in one setting can become hesitant in another. Someone who speaks powerfully in familiar territory can become uncertain. The moment the context changes, that means confidence is not a permanent inner substance. It is often a temporary reaction to perceived familiarity, control, and predictability. When the mind believes it understands the environment, confidence rises. When the environment feels uncertain, confidence falls. But instead of seeing that confidence depends on interpretation, you interpret its absence as proof that you should not act yet. And that creates a trap. Because now the thing that could build familiarity is the very thing you refuse to do until familiarity already exists. You want certainty before exposure. But exposure is what teaches the mind that uncertainty can be handled. Every avoided action strengthens the idea that it was too risky to begin with. Every delay gives more authority to the fear that created the delay. And over time, this becomes self-reinforcing. You stay away from difficult situations, which prevents adaptation, which keeps the situations feeling difficult. Then you say your lack of confidence is the reason you cannot move, when in reality it is the result of not moving. What makes this harder to notice is that avoidance often feels logical. You tell yourself you are preparing, improving, waiting for a better time, protecting your image. avoiding embarrassment. But preparation can become an elegant form of hiding. Improvement can become a delay mechanism, and protecting your image can quietly become submission to imagined judgment. The mind would rather remain in a known weakness than risk exposure in an unknown one. That is why people often stay trapped in patterns they claim to hate. The pattern is painful but familiar, and familiarity feels safer than change. So confidence is chased as if it will rescue you, while the real issue remains untouched. The issue is not that you need to feel bigger. It is that you keep organizing your actions around the avoidance of discomfort. As long as you do that, confidence will always stay somewhere in the future, always near enough to imagine, but never close enough to use. And because you keep treating confidence like permission, you unconsciously teach yourself that fear gets the final vote. You ask your emotions whether you are allowed to move, and when they answer with tension, you obey. But emotions are not always instructions. Very often, they are only forecasts, and forecasts can be wrong, especially when they are built from avoidance rather than evidence. Once you see this clearly, the whole question changes. Instead of asking how to become more confident, you start asking what confidence was supposed to do for you. Usually the answer is simple. It was supposed to remove hesitation. It was supposed to protect you from judgment. It was supposed to guarantee that you would not feel small, exposed, or uncertain. But no emotional state can make uncertainty disappear completely. What changes your life is not the arrival of perfect confidence. It is the decision to stop treating uncertainty like a stop sign. That does not mean forcing yourself blindly into everything. It means understanding that discomfort is not always danger, and self-doubt is not always truth. When you stop worshiping confidence, you become capable of using action differently. Action stops being a test of your worth and becomes a way of collecting evidence. You speak, and then you learn what actually happens. You try, and then you learn what you can handle. You enter the situation, and then your mind has new material to work with. This is how confidence is really built, not as a feeling you wait for, but as a consequence of repeated contact with reality. The first time will still feel uncertain. The second time may still feel awkward. The third time may still contain tension. But now the mind is no longer dealing only with imagination. It is dealing with memory, and memory changes prediction. The more evidence you collect, the less power your invented fears have over you. That is why people who look confident often are not fearless at all. They have simply acted enough times that uncertainty no longer feels absolute. They do not move because they feel perfect. They move because they no longer expect perfection to come first. And maybe that is the truth you were avoiding. You do not need confidence before action. You need action before confidence. You need to stop making inner certainty the condition for outer movement. Because once you do, your life starts reorganizing around evidence instead of imagination. You no longer ask, "Do I feel ready?" You ask, "What happens if I enter?" And that question changes everything because it returns you to reality. Reality is where confidence is built. Imagination is where it is endlessly postponed. The moment you stop waiting to feel different, you give yourself the chance to become different. This is why small, deliberate actions matter more than dramatic internal promises. A short conversation, a direct message, a visible attempt, a decision made before your mind fully approves of it. These things seem minor, but they teach the nervous system something essential. Discomfort can be entered without collapse. And once that lesson becomes real, confidence stops being mythical. It becomes practical. It becomes less about self-image and more about lived proof. You start trusting not that you will feel calm, but that you can function even when you do not. That is a far stronger foundation than waiting.